welcome to my latest episode of MetalNet. I have a very special guest today, Ben Woods, who is known for fusing metal and flamenco music. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great this morning. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you on. So let's start at the very beginning. When did you get into music? When did the passion and when did the bug bite?
Oh boy, my family didn't really listen to music all that much when I was growing up, so I don't know if that made it a disadvantage or an advantage. But I got a little 45, and I had stupid little records like Gloria and Saturday Night and the theme song from the Globetrotters and some pretty ridiculous 50s songs and stuff. And um, soundtrack to Star Wars was, I think, maybe my first album. And but then eventually it became like 1984, and I was listening to Van Halen's 1984, and I think Michael Jackson Thriller, and started to get some, I think maybe a Twisted Sister album or something. I didn't really develop my musical taste, but I started listening to more music. That's for sure. It wasn't until I was a teenager till I really got serious.
So when you got serious, was there a moment where you thought, I like this enough that I actually want to pick up an instrument?
Oh yeah, a good friend of mine, Jason Starkey, up in the Seattle area, was already really proficient at guitar, and we were just kids, and I was always amazed by it, and it seemed like the girls liked it too, and I thought, man, maybe he could teach me. So I asked him, and he did. He locked me in his basement with his guitar and wrote down the chords on a piece of paper, and just left me there for a couple hours, and came back down until I got him. And was my very first guitar lesson. And from that point on, I started to get really serious about music. Um, we were listening to things like a lot of Kiss, and basically just a lot of Kiss, which I have to say aren't great songs, but there's just so much material there that there's a wide variety of stuff to get into.
So did you go to your guitar teacher and say, listen, I'm into like all these bands, I want to learn to play this, or what was the situation when you went to lessons early on?
Yeah, when I was finally ready to take guitar lessons, went to this guy. Um, Cool guy, lived in his mom's basement though. And he said, "What are you into?" And I said, "I'm not sure. I mean, Van Halen is cool. I guess I like rock or whatever. I'm not quite sure." And he's like, "Hmm." He's looking through his albums, and he pulls out Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind. And I took one look at the cover, and I was like, "Yep, that's what I want." Even before hearing it, I was like, "Yep, that's definitely what I want." And he put it on first song, Where Eagles Dare, you know. And I was like, whoa, that's what I want. Let's do that right now. So we got right into it. And from then on, I just became the biggest Iron Maiden fan. And I realized that after a few lessons with him, I didn't need lessons with him anymore. All I needed to do was pick off the songs by ear from all the Iron Maiden albums. And Iron Maiden had a lot of, maybe 8 albums around that time. So there was a lot of stuff to learn. And I bought every single album, and I learned every single song, all the rhythms anyways, until I was eventually started to pick up some of the solos. And I learned the Dave Morey solos first because they're quite a bit easier but still difficult. And even to this day, it's hard for me to do the Adrian Smith solos, but I did do my best to get into them. And so being this huge Iron Maiden guitar fan, and them basically taking over as my guitar teachers, I had to train my ear. And I didn't know this till many years later, but the chord progressions and the scales that Iron Maiden music was teaching me was exactly what I needed to know when I started learning flamenco guitar. I had no idea at the time, but those harmonic minor scales and the Phrygian modes and the harmonic minor modes and stuff like this, it's exactly what I needed. So I was already getting a foundation for flamenco studies before I even realized that before I even heard what flamenco guitar was. So, and even to this day, I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Nice.
Absolutely love them to death. And I still play their music on guitar all the time.
That's awesome. So, is it fair to say that you were a pretty disciplined musician as a young person, that you were able to say, listen, I don't need these guitar lessons anymore. I just need to go home and like listen to Maiden and just practice?
You're exactly right. And luckily, I grew up in Bellevue, which is kind of like a suburb of Seattle. So it was raining every day. I mean, it rains 300 days out of the year, or it's gray, you know. So spent a lot of time indoors. Didn't have a lot of friends who lived close to me. So spent a lot of time by myself indoors. And the guitar was my best friend. And Iron Maiden was my favorite band. And it's just, we just got along every day. I was very
Yeah.
disciplined though. I wanted it bad, and I think that's the most important thing. Becoming a musician, whether it's just for a hobby or even professional, it's just gotta want it so bad. And I really, really, really wanted it, and even to this day, I want it just as bad.
That's amazing. And so, did you know at that point, did you know, like, I am going to be a musician?
Yes, I knew it, although I didn't think I was gonna be a professional musician or
Oh, interesting.
do it for a living. I just knew that I wanted to be badass on guitar.
Mhm.
I think it's a really cool thing. It's just a really cool thing to do. Um, but at the same at the same time, I also had an interest in art and drawing. So it turns out that for my later teenage years and my all of my 20s, I was an illustrator, and that's how I made my living. I wasn't a professional musician. So it's still very creative, still artistic, but I did the music as well. It wasn't a hobby; it was a passion. But I didn't use it to pay my rent. I
Mhm.
guess I should say. So, but I was always interested in being the most badass guitar player I could be.
So there's a great story about your early musician life where you would work as an illustrator, take some time off, and then just basically dedicate yourself to practicing 8+ hours a day. Tell me what made you make that decision to sort of live your life that way, where you're working basically just to hoard up enough money so you can then follow your passion.
Yeah, well, as anybody knows, when they're starting out, in their early 20s and stuff, it's nobody's got any money. You learn to love top ramen and thousands of different recipes to make it, and uh, and so I had even less money sometimes because I wanted to be so good at flamenco guitar, and I was looking at my heroes like Paco de Lucia, and just how am I ever going to get there? The only way is through practice and many, many hours of practice, and there just wasn't enough hours in the day to get there quick enough. So I realized I just had a thought. I was like, I'm working 8 hours a day. What if I played guitar 8 hours a day?
Mhm.
Maybe I would get to where I need to go much faster. And so I I asked my job, I was like, I want to go part time. They're like, yeah, but you're doing so well. No, I don't care. I want to go part time so I have more time to practice. So I did, went part time, ran out of money very quickly, and then had to go back to full time for a few months, and then saved a little bit up. Said I need to go back to part time. Got to go practice more. I want to go practice my 8-10 hours a day. There's just not enough energy. I didn't have enough energy to do that while working full time. So I did that back and forth, and sometimes even quit the job completely, and I was able to find another job. Luckily, there was a lot of t-shirt companies in the area, and I was able to get jobs in the art departments. So yeah, went back and forth for about 4 or 5 years, and I got a lot of good practicing under my belt. Lots and lots of good days with where I put in 8-10 hours where my hands just wanted to fall off at the end of the day. But boy, I made a lot of good strides that way, and I might never be able to do what I can do now if I didn't put in those hardcore hours, and if I didn't, eat all that top ramen. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. Except I didn't ever have to learn to like it. I actually think it's quite good on its. That's another story. So when you're younger, you had this discipline. You're playing metal. You're listening to Maiden, and you're learning all the songs. And then as a younger adult, you are doing the same, but for flamenco. What happened in between being that metal kid and being the guy who wants to be a great flamenco player that made you sort of switch from one genre to the other?
Oh yeah, this is a good story. This is I was in a speed metal band. We were called Borax in Seattle, and I was living in a house with all my friends, and we were all musicians, but we needed an extra roommate to pay the rent. So I found this guy. It's my fault. Found this guy. We all thought he was cool, but it turns out that we didn't know, but he was a junkie. He was a heroin junkie or whatever the hell they do. And I came home one night, and my electric guitar was gone. The amp was gone. All the speakers out of my cabinet were gone. And I was like, great. This is something that I like to do every day when I come home from work, and I know I can't do it at all. So my mom had a Spanish classical guitar similar to this one, but not with the cutaway or all this cool stuff going on here. And so I got that, and I kept practicing all my speed metal and stuff on the Spanish guitar. And I thought to myself, wow, when you're doing speed metal on a Spanish guitar, it kind of sounds like that Spanish shit. It sounds like that Spanish guitar stuff. I wonder if I could learn some of that, and then maybe when I get my rig back, my electric guitar rig back, I'll have a new style, maybe a new sound, because I was starting to sound like everybody else. And I thought, well, that was cool. I can have a more mysterious, exotic sound if I study some of this stuff. So I started with just buying some flamenco guitar CDs, and actually at that time it was cassette tapes, and I think I got some Otmar Liebert and some Armic, which are not really flamenco. It's rumba, and then I got some Carlos Montoya and maybe a Paco de Lucia cassette. And I just started to pick things off with my ear. And that's when I realized that I could only get to a certain point before I needed actual flamenco guitar lessons. But I would pick things off from my ear, like the rasgueados, these, that kind of thing. Well, really, the way they do it, I didn't know this at the time, is they start pinky. But I was only hearing it. So I do mine backwards now, and I start with my index, and then I go down to my pinky, and it sounds like four strokes to me, but when I started my actual flamenco guitar studies, I was told, oh, you're doing it way wrong, you're going to have to change that, and you did this thing, you're doing it way wrong, you have to change that, you're doing it all backwards and stuff. And well, I got to a point where I got the same sound, so I said, well, fuck that. I'm not going to change it. So I kind of do things my own way. And since then, I've kind of kept doing things my own way. I learned the authentic traditional thing, and I make it sound exactly like it, but I do it my own way. So that's kind of a very long answer to a very simple question.
No, that's right. You found your passion, you found this music that you love. And then when did you get the idea to fuse metal, your first love, with flamenco?
Well, as soon as I started playing flamenco guitar and listening to it, actually, as soon as I heard Paco de Lucia play, I just thought to myself, God, this guy would be so badass if he was in Megadeth. Or man, I mean, this is basically like acoustic speed metal. If you take away the songs with the singing, which I can appreciate, but I don't love, the cante. If you take away those songs and you just get to the core of some of the most badass, like the bulerias and the fandangos de Huelva and stuff, which is just guitar and palmas. The palmas going kind of sounds like the double kick of a drum set, and the guitar sounds kind of like, instead of, it kind of sounds like, it's fast, aggressive, virtuosic. It shares the same common spirit that metal does. So I think that flamenco guitar and metal, I've always thought, boy, they should work together really well. Because I love them both, and they have so many similarities. You know what I mean? So that's kind of I had thought that that would sound great since the first time I heard flamenco guitar. I was like, this should be in a metal band. This has to be. But I looked everywhere and it didn't exist. I was really shocked because I thought I can't be the only person that thinks this. But apparently I was.
So you just decided to start Flametal.
I did. I did. I had a rack of CDs that was all metal CDs, and then I had another rack that was all flamenco CDs and world music CDs and but there was nothing in the middle. I had this middle rack that was empty, and I thought, God, there should be some bands in there, you know. But I looked everywhere, and there's really nothing. I mean, there was a couple of bands out of Spain, but it was more like traditional metal. It wasn't very speed metally or death metally, and I thought, or thrash metal. I was really into thrash, still am, and I thought it needs to be something like that. But nothing was there, so I thought, well, I can't find anything, so I better just create it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like reluctantly created it, just because I wanted to hear it so bad.
Right. So when you approached other musicians and said, I want to do this thing, the band's going to be called Flametal and it's going to be a fusion of both, what was the reaction you got from other musicians that you were hoping to get in your band?
Oh, well, I wasn't quite sure. I just knew that I needed really good musicians,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work. So I made a demo
Mm-hmm.
and 3 or 4 songs, I think. And luckily, so luckily, I was able to get Marty Friedman to play some solos on one of the songs of the demo, and that just brought the technicality and the level of this demo to a whole nother place. Like I just played a little bit of just a tiny bit of guitar on one of his albums called Music for Speeding, and I didn't play even very good. I was very intimidated by the whole experience, but being such a cool and generous guy, he contributed some solos to my Flametal demo, which I thought was great. And because of that, I was able to secure some of the best musicians that I've ever met in the Bay Area. And I even remember putting out an ad on Craigslist, and I had the demo songs there, and I said, if you have any doubt at all that you can't pull this off perfectly, don't bother responding. Because I only wanted the best of the best, and I didn't care if I sounded like a dick. So that's what I got. I got really lucky.
Does that demo still exist anywhere that people could listen to it?
I have it, but I have not put it out. I should, but I haven't put it out. Maybe I will someday.
Yeah,
Right now, it's
thinking
sitting in
about
the
it.
vault. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It sounds great, but it's in the vault for right now.
Okay. So, and now Flametal did several albums together, right?
Yeah.
And then you've done other flamenco stuff that isn't necessarily metal fusion. And then you've done, let's see, you have another band, Heavy Mellow. Tell me about Heavy Mellow.
Well, Heavy Mellow, I got the name. I remember it clearly. I got the name from Chuck Billy, singer of Testament.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually he probably doesn't know who I am, but I overheard him say that. I went and checked out the Alex Skolnick trio, which was the first year he started his jazz trio, and we watched him play a show at Blake's on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. And Chuck Billy was there, and he said, "Yeah, man, it sounds like Heavy Mellow," because he was doing it, and I'm like, "I'm stealing that," and that's what I did. And so the band is just 2 guitarists, myself and Luis Villegas, and a percussionist, and we just play my favorite metal classics, and not requests, just the ones that I want to do, and I rearrange them for flamenco guitar to be instrumental. And it's a really, really fun project. And it was great because the first year that I made this project, we were able to get on the very first Monsters of Rock cruise. And in 2012, and ever since we've been on every single one, and even been on some of the other production companies' cruises like the Moody Blues cruise and the Yes cruise for progressive bands and stuff. But the Monsters of Rock cruises are so fun, man, because it's like a floating music festival, and it's like being on tour, but you get to stay in the same hotel room cabin every single night, and you don't have to do the traveling in between, but you're still going to the Bahamas or wherever. And also, you get to see all these other bands. There's like 40 bands. I got to see so many bands that were great that I had never saw before, like Europe and Halloween, and and just great bands like that. I had never known how good they were live. Like Kix is a great band live. L.A. Guns is a great band live. Lizzie Borden is a great band live. I never paid attention to these bands before, but getting to see them on these cruises, in between stuff like Anthrax and Queensryche and stuff, where I'm just, yes, fuck yeah. I just, this made the metalhead in me so happy. And then the fact that I got to play a show every single night, and these people from these bands are checking us out. It was just a really good community vibe on these cruises. So if you've never taken one before, when the world starts back up, I highly advise it, because it's like getting to go to a festival like Walking or something like that, but it's so much more comfortable. I mean, all you can eat food at any time of the day or night, and you get to stay in the same comfortable hotel room, your little cabin, every single night. You don't have to, and you don't have to be in the mud or in a tent or anything like that. It's the way to go.
That's amazing. So it sounds like the reception from the metal crowd has been great. That you're invited to the Monster Rock Cruise, and every single year since it started. Is that the general vibe from the metal crowd?
Yeah, I'm so lucky that they can appreciate what we're doing with this. One, they recognize all the songs, of course, because we bust into a Judas Priest song here, or play an Ozzy song there, or whatever. So they recognize it all, but it's all with a new flavor. I mean, there's no singer, and we're adding a million notes to every song, and they'll like, oh, what is this? Well, they get it right away if I play Bark at the Moon, and they get it right away, and they're like, well, that's a cool way to play it. That's totally different. So we've been really great reception from the hard rock and metal community from those things.
And what about the other side? What about the flamenco world? Have you had any sort of pushback or controversy in that crowd?
That's a great question. Not as accepting as the metal crowd is to my flamenco arrangements. The flamenco community is, well, most of them don't even like metal or appreciate metal.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the guitar players do, but not all of them. Most of them are not metalheads like we are. So I'm at a disadvantage there. And then there's a lot of, just like in classical music, there's a lot of elitism that goes on, where they're a little bit snobby, and they don't want their music tainted with anything else, which is ridiculous, because flamenco itself was created, it's still evolving, it's an evolving art form, and it was created by fusion of cultures and musics, and that is still happening to this day. So for them not to want, metal to creep in, sorry guys, it's gonna creep in, just like jazz crept in, and Latin music has crept in. It's just gonna happen. That's the world we live in. But not many people are doing it with metal, and so I'm kind of like the guy that's doing it, and so I receive some criticism here and there, but it's not so bad. Yeah. Some negative comments, and if they're really an idiotic comment or being a douchebag, I'll get back at them with my FAQ videos, where I call them out and I say, you know what, this is a terrible comment and you're being a douchebag, and I'm going to let everybody know. And since I've been doing those, not so many negative comments.
So funny. I commend you for doing that because I think other people take the quote unquote high road, but I think your approach is very entertaining. First of all, I've watched all of them, and I
Oh,
recommend other people watch them. But just calling people out on like nonsense for the sake of nonsense. My question for you though is, do you think that those comments are coming from actual musicians or people who are just fans who don't play?
hmm. Probably not so many musicians. If I mean you've got a popular YouTube channel as well. You understand if you get a negative comment and you go see who would say this, what kind of asshole would say this thing, and you go and you look, you'll see that they don't have any videos of their own or any type of artistic endeavor whatsoever. They're just, I don't know why they do that, and I don't really care.
It's all good. Well, I do recommend people watch those videos as well as your other videos on your channel because they are
Please.
hilarious. So, I have a question for you having to do with, I guess, genres and labeling. So, we're talking about the metal world, we're talking about the flamenco world. There's also this other category that I am vaguely familiar with called like world music. And to me, that's like a bigger umbrella, almost like the way I use metal, which is that much bigger umbrella that just includes everything that's like heavy rock to like actual metal. Do you find that that world music community accepts you? Because to me, world music is really about like the more modern, and this is just my takeaway, but it's more about that modern touch of all these different amazing genres across the world. And I'm just wondering if that larger community is like more open armed towards what you're doing.
Mm. I would say there maybe it's an open-minded community, but not all fans of world music will embrace metal. Unfortunately, metal it really takes a special kind of character like us to really love metal, and especially to you know, if we can appreciate something like death metal with the vocals the way they are, someone who maybe a world music fan might not be able to appreciate that so much. You know, they maybe they appreciate the authenticity of the traditional cultural beginnings of the world music that they're into. I can't really speak on their behalf, but as far as being embraced by the world music community, I don't know if I can say that I've been embraced by them. But I I think what I'm doing is being more embraced towards the shred guitar community, and that's good because I really like shred guitar, and I love the community. We're just a bunch of nerds, you know, we're a bunch of guitar nerds, and I like to do what I'm doing, this metal and flamenco, because it is technically difficult. It's one of the hardest. Metal is one of the hardest genres of music to play on any of the metal instruments, and I think that the metal audience is maybe the most discerning and intelligent appreciators of music out there. And I think the same goes with people who are into flamenco guitar. It's one of the most difficult styles of acoustic guitar to play, and it really takes a discerning ear and a knowledgeable ear to really appreciate what's going on. So I don't know if I've said this before, but like metal and flamenco, they share a common spirit in many ways, especially with the guitar. So, world music, I don't know so much. I don't really put myself in a world music category. I put myself in more of the shred guitar category and community, and that's where I want to be, quite honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're being embraced in that because I feel like metalheads can be kind of harsh too sometimes. I mean, it's a smaller group of us, I think, that are purists as well. But I think the larger group, we have so many subgenres of metal that I think it only makes sense for us to embrace your music.
Well, there are some cavemen out there that have called my flamenco metal stuff. They call it gay or whatever. They think it's not maybe as manly as as metal should be or whatever like that. But Hey, I mean, I can understand what they're talking about because I listen to Slayer on a daily basis too, and I want my Slayer to be as hardcore as it is, and I don't want it softened down with beautiful harmonies and stuff. I want it to be, very aggressive. So I get it, but like you said, the genre of metal encompasses so much these days. And now that we have folk metal, I suppose that Flametal would fall under the category of folk metal, like like bands like Corpiclani and stuff like that are just super awesome. And I don't know if Flametal is like that or quite that awesome, but um, you know, there's just so much metal out there, and I like some black metal bands, and I like some satanic death metal bands, and I like some deathcore bands, and I like the power metal, and this. I think all metal fans can appreciate a couple of bands in every single subgenre, whereas world music and flamenco fans maybe are a little bit not so open minded. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but that's the discussion we're having right now.
Right.
And
Yes. Yes. It
like
is.
I said before, I think that there's the metal community has a lot of people with very knowledgeable ears, and a lot very intelligent people is what I want to say, and not so much elitism going on.
So when you book yourself for a tour, you're seeing yourself with other metal bands, regardless of the fact whether they're playing like classical, I'm sorry, like a metal type of music or not, right? You could just put yourself with any metal band and just be on stage and be happy and feel like the audience is gonna pick up what you're saying and understand what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose since I'm playing acoustic guitars or nylon string guitars and in a different way and not using distortion, that there's a lot of people out there that would say, "What is he doing with this band over here?" But I always find a way to integrate myself and shove myself in where I don't belong. And um, I'm a metalhead and I'm part of the community, and the music that I play, I think, fits right in it. And I'm also a flamenco, and I'm part of that community. And I think I can play authentic flamenco as well. But when I do, every once in a while, I'm gonna give it a kick in the ass and play a sweep arpeggio in the middle of some authentic thing just to shove it up a notch, you know.
Well, well, speaking of which, I've seen you do like a System of a Down song, and it was a very cool thing because it was you on stage playing your version of the song, but you also had a flamenco dancer with you. So this is like another sort of aspect of your career. Tell me about working with your dancer, Arlene Hurtado.
That's right. Arlene is amazing, and we're very lucky because we share this unspoken communication. It's like a chemistry. And you need that because when you're working with guitar and dancer on stage, it's not like you can be talking to each other. You have to do it with this series of signals. The dancer actually gives certain movements in the dance that actually signals me to change up the music. A lot of times in flamenco, in the art of flamenco, it's different. Every other art form, the dancer dances to the music. With flamenco, the musician accompanies the dancer. The dancer sets the tempo and changes it, and changes the mood, and changes the arrangements of the piece, and it can be completely improvised. So I have to be alert, watch for the signals, and accompany. It's a completely different type of thing. It's totally different from playing in a band or playing any other type of music that involves dancers as well. And it's 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 very rewarding because most of it is improvised, and I really have to be on the edge of my seat and watching every little thing, because if I'm not super alert and hyper focused, I could make a mistake that's going to make me sound like crap, but it's also going to throw Arlene off, And the thing about us being flamencos, her being a dancer and me being a guitar player, once you learn a long, arduous task of these mysterious unwritten rules, you're able to perform flamenco with anybody, even people you've never met before, you've never worked before, you've never rehearsed before. You can literally just walk out on the stage with a bunch of strangers and be able to pull off a show and have it be pretty tight and pretty awesome, even if you don't know their names. So, the fact that we know each other, sometimes we get to rehearse and get to know each other even better. So we can pull off a show that you usually would require maybe 4 or 5 people to create all the elements of flamenco, which you need the singing, the cante, the toque, the guitar, the baile, the dance, and the palmeros, which is the rhythmical hand clapping and possibly even percussion with cajon. You kind of need all those elements to make authentic flamenco happen. However, sometimes we have to perform and it's just the two of us. So we have to fill in those spaces. There's a lot of space and energy that we need to create even more. So it's more difficult and challenging, but it also can be more rewarding. And luckily, she's at a super high level, which is what it takes. And I'm just half the time I'm just trying to keep up.
So it sounds like a lot of your performances are improvised, where the two of you get on stage, you're reading her and playing along with her movement.
Absolutely. We'll have a loose sketch of a song form in flamenco. Like, for instance, there'll be a form called, maybe it's called tangos, and it sounds like this. And maybe I'll play that to start it out, but after that happens, who knows what's going to happen. Then I just have to play what we call compás, which is just rhythm. And I'm just playing rhythm and watching her and seeing what's going to happen because I have no idea. Sometimes we take turns, and sometimes it's my turn to play a little falsetto, a little music interlude, and sometimes it's her turn to do some crazy percussive footwork solo thing, and or maybe she's playing the castanets. You know what I mean? And so some of it is rehearsed, most of it is improvised. So we never know what's going to happen, and it's really cool because sometimes you have a great show, but sometimes you have just an amazing show that you're like, I don't know what we did there. I hope somebody recorded it because I'll never remember what just happened, and we have to try and do that again, you know? Right. So that's the cool thing about improvising.
Well, speaking of people you've paired up with, you've also worked with Steve Stevens. And for anybody who does not know, my introduction to flamenco came actually through Steve Stevens and one other artist, where they did these beautiful flamenco albums. I don't know if they're considered classical or if they're considered like new flamenco. I just know that I heard it, I loved it, and I found that same connection between flamenco and metal that you found, where it's intricate, it can be very fast, and it just brings you to this other magical kind of world and gives you this like beautiful escape to another world. Did you ever listen to Steve Stevens' Flamenco Go-Go album early on, or did you kind of come by that later in your musical life?
Absolutely, I heard it and I thought it was amazing. And Arlene had heard it and she loved it too, basically when it came out. And it is considered new flamenco or nuevo flamenco or however you want to call it, because it doesn't have necessarily the traditional roots of the song forms like fandangos and bulerías and soleadas and all these. However, the playing is incredible, and the arrangements and the way he's using non-traditional instruments and keyboards and things like this, it's just amazing and mind-blowing, really. So And I believe that you mentioned to me earlier, off camera, you mentioned about Charo. You know, we all know as the Coochie Coochie lady, however, from the Love Boat and things like that. However, she is an amazing classical guitarist, and she does have some skills playing flamenco techniques as well. And I've actually met her on a few occasions and even worked with her on a little project or commercial or whatever stuff here and there. And she is, I'll tell you something about her. When she walks into the room, she takes over the room. Just her energy. There is no room for anyone else to speak or even breathe. It's just the Charo show, 24 hours a day, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying this in a bad thing. It's an amazing thing. I've never met someone like that before. She is just absolutely amazing. So the fact that she's such a great guitar player, you would never know, but she's an amazing musician, and she created some good albums, guitar albums as well. The whole experience with Steve Stevens is surreal, and to call him a friend is just, I mean, I'm so grateful that I was able to. We toured together, and I sort of was his part of his backing band, I would say. So when we weren't playing our nylon strings for his flamenco a go-go songs, I was playing an electric guitar and being kind of his rhythm guitar player, and we were playing, you know, rock and roll and a lot of Billy Idol material. We toured in Europe for almost 3 weeks, and it was just an amazing experience. And he's such a sweet guy, and generous and very, very cool. Amazing musician, amazing guitarist. I learned a lot, and I think I got the whole gig because I did a flamenco guitar version of Rebel Yell. Okay. And I made a video of it, and somehow he saw it. I don't know how he saw it, but after that, I started working with him on little things here and there, and then we got to tour, and it's just been great.
So where were you in your career when Steve found that video? Had you already made some Flametal albums?
Oh yeah, yeah. This was let's see. I made the first Flametal album. I think it was 2005. I did the Rebel Yell video probably about 2011, and it wasn't until a year or two after that that I think we did a couple of jams on the Married to Rock MTV program and something else. And yeah, his wife Josie Stevens is just also an amazing human being. It's so sweet and generous. Shout out to both of them for just being great human beings. And anyways, that's kind of how it went. And we haven't done anything in the last year or two, but hopefully there'll be more stuff coming.
Yeah, there were a couple of.
We did.
You did on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, he invited me over to his place, and we recorded a couple of his songs from the Flamenco Go album that we played many times on tour, actually. But this was nice to just sit down with a couple acoustics and just play, just raw, nothing else. And it was a lot of fun. So if you guys want to see it, just type in Steve Stevens and Ben Woods on Instagram or in YouTube, and the videos are out there.
Yeah, and just so you know, that your name has come across my desk, I guess, twice, and both through Steve Stevens. I saw those Instagram videos and actually reposted one of them on my Instagram channel because I love that album. I thought you played so beautifully together. But also, the very first time I heard of you was because I was telling somebody about Flamenco a Go-Go, another music fan who was more into classical stuff. And he's like, you're a metalhead and you're talking about flamenco now. There's this dude who does this thing called Flametal. So I feel like there's that, you and I are connected through Steve Stevens.
That's a good way to be connected. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much to that friend of yours that turned you on to my music. I really appreciate the opportunity to sit here and talk with you.
Oh, thanks so much. The pleasure is definitely mine. And actually, I want to talk to you about one more thing that I think you've done that's really interesting and different. And that is that you created something called the Nylocaster, which is a guitar that is electric but has nylon strings. So tell me why does this Why does this need to exist?
It needs to exist. It's just like Flametal. It needs to exist because it needed to happen and nobody had done it
Mhm.
before. And it's something, it's the kind of guitar that I need. And it didn't exist. So I had to create it from nothing, really. So, oh, look at that. I have one right here. Wow, what a coincidence. So basically, it's like a Stratocaster electric guitar, but it has nylon strings in it, and it has a wider neck. It has a neck width the same as my signature acoustic,
Mhm.
flamenco guitar over here. It's just as wide, and it shares. But I've been able to fix so many problems that the standard Spanish guitar has that they didn't know it was a problem. But doing this for a living, I encounter the problem so many times. You can't adjust the action of the string height on a classical guitar. You just can't adjust it. You have to take the strings off and take the saddle out and sand it down and put it back in, restring it, and oh, it's not good enough, and redo it again, and it's just a pain in the ass. And then you can't adjust the intonation, which basically moves the bridge of the strings back and forth, which creates perfect tune. So if I hit this chord down here, I can hit the same chord here and it will be in perfect tune. Well, guess what? On a Spanish guitar, chances are this being in perfect tune up here or way up here, probably not going to happen because you can't adjust the intonation. It needs to be adjustable. So I fixed that. You try and take a Spanish guitar on a huge stage with a rock band at those volumes, and it's going to feed back. I don't care what awesome pickup system it has in there. Trust me, I've tried them all. It feeds back, especially if you stand and you put your foot up on the monitor and it's blasting at you. It's yeah, it's gonna create this huge feedback loop squeal, and everybody's gonna die. So these things, it won't feed back at all. It's comfortable. The acoustic guitars, they're way out here. That it's not comfortable to play standing up live for a long time, and this is. I've changed, using electric guitar tuners to even tune nylon strings. Guess what? It works. People didn't think it would work, but it does work. It actually works a lot better than those double slotted spools or the traditional pegs like violin pegs. This is modern technology, just like everything else is. The radiused fretboards, there's so many things. It works. Just nobody's tried it yet. For instance, this. I don't have my whammy bar now, but this is a tremolo bridge. It has the springs back here. So the bridge, you can take dive bombs in it. And nobody thought that the nylon strings would come back into tune after you dive bomb. But they do. It's in perfect tune. So all these things, they just needed to happen. I needed them to happen to be able to play my kind of metal flamenco shows properly. And now I can, because I've got the Nylocaster here, and this is my latest prototype. It's got my little logo right there. If you can see it, probably you see it backwards. But everything is custom, down to the headstock shape, down to the proprietary bridge made just for Nylocaster, down to everything. So it's really a fun journey. I love tinkering around with my tools and soldering and making them myself, because I don't build the guitars from the ground up, like, cutting out the shapes in the wood and stuff, but I design all of that. And then when I get them, I do the secret modifications to be able to string them up and to be able to have it play. And obviously you see there's no pickups here or anything like that. That's all part of the modifications that I do. And then I sell them at my nylocaster.com site. However, right now it's paused because things are weird with the COVID, and shipping is weird, and especially international shipping. It's kind of weird right now. I don't want to put any people off by having to wait months to get their thing. So I'm just pausing that. I'm perfecting the prototypes, and there's going to be some even cooler innovations that I can't really talk about right now. But yeah, everything's so mysterious, man. Yeah, because it's going to be really, really cool. And so now I finally have the perfect tools to create flamenco and metal. And I can also play traditional classical or traditional flamenco stuff because it sounds just like an acoustic guitar. It just looks and feels like an electric guitar. So it's like best of both worlds.
You basically started your own guitar company.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am a guitar company now, and I'm the CEO and the only employee. So I'm employee of the month, like every month. It's
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah,
So
I give myself bonuses all the time. It's great.
so you did you start making this guitar for yourself because you needed it and then decided that this is something I want to share with everybody else because if I need it, somebody else must need it or want it as well.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, I thought, this is just I fixed all the problems.
Mhm.
And a lot of people didn't even know that these were problems, but they are. And the more guitarists I introduce this to, they realize, oh, yeah, this is exactly what I need. This is what I've been needing all these years.
Mhm.
So, especially the flamenco guitar players, they're a little bit more open minded than the classical dudes. But I think it's just a matter of time before they all start to see that, hey, you know what? This is an incredible instrument and it's versatile enough to do whatever they need to do. It's never going to replace an acoustic guitar. Like it's if I take this out to the campfire, you're not going to be able to hear it very well, or it's more of a stage guitar. It's for a professional uh, theater act or big stage, large venue act, arena, whatever, what have you. It's for that kind of environment. But to tell you the truth, I do all my composing and writing on them because when when they're not plugged in, they're virtually silent. So I can start chinking, messing around at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm not pissing off my neighbors. You know what I'm talking about? So it's kind of like a good writing tool as well.
That's wonderful. So once you're going to work on another kind of prototype, get it even better than you get it now, and then when things get maybe a little bit more normal, people can go where to get these guitars from you.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to have some really cool innovations on the next set of prototypes, and I'll be able to start my inventory and start making them and get ready for the orders because I think that there's going to be. It was very successful my very first year, and now that the guitars are completely customized and so many more advancements in the technology that I think it's going to work out really well. I won't have all the colors like white and black and tobacco burst and red and blue and all of that. I'm going in the more traditional natural finishes or this honey burst finish stuff like and have cool tops like burled maple tops and just regular just natural wood grain. I think it's a little bit more classic,
Mhm.
especially since all of us Spanish guitar players are used to just we don't play a blue Spanish guitar. We play a wood colored, so it kind of calls to that sensibility of design a little bit more.
Although I do sense in the future that you're going to decide that they do need to come in colors.
Oh yeah, there's gonna have to be chameleon paint job and
Right?
flat black and only the coolest stuff. Not probably not pink or powdered blue, but probably more metal type
I
stuff.
hear you.
That's
And what kind of strings do you use on those? Like, can people easily find those strings once they need to replace them?
oh yeah, yeah. They luckily they're available. They're ball end nylon strings. So just like an electric guitar strings have a ball end on one of the ends, these need to as well to fit the kind of bridge arrangements that these have. But they make them in nylon, and the ones that work the best and last longest are the Ernie Ball, Earthwood, ball end nylon strings. I just made a little plug there for Ernie Ball there. What do you know? And but they're my favorite ones, and I also I put an extra pack of those in every guitar I sell, just because they shouldn't have to run to the store if they break one string in the first couple of weeks of playing. I want them to have a little something. I think every guitar should be sold with an extra pack or two of strings because, you know, it sucks to run out to the guitar store every time. But I guess we don't have to do that now. We just type in something on Amazon and it magically appears in a day or
Magically
two.
appears
I
with slight
love
delayed shipping because of COVID, but yes, this is true.
Yeah, I mean, I just love that. Maybe it's not the most environmentally friendly or the most politically correct thing to do, but the fact that I can order something on Amazon Prime and get it maybe the next day is really going to make me lazy.
But
Yeah, it's happening already.
it's happening to all of us. It
Yeah.
is. It is. Well, you've got a lot going on. We have a lot to look forward to with your guitars. Some new music. Are you working on any right at the moment?
Oh, right now, the past 6 months, I've put out a lot of collaboration videos. Since everybody's at home and we're all locked down, I figured this is the perfect time for me to reach out to some of my favorite guitar players like Jeff Loomis and Andy James and some of my favorite flamenco guitar players too, like Amir John Haddad. And these are some of the best players in the world at guitar of metal and flamenco, and they're just the world's best. And I'm like, well, what's the worst that can happen? They could say no. So I create a song, send it to them, put a solo here if you want, and send it back to me, and then I create these videos. Really fun project. Everybody has a fun time, and it's not a huge hassle like doing a whole song or doing a whole album with somebody. All it is just laying down a quick solo for 20 seconds, and that's all the work, and then we can all enjoy the videos that come afterwards. And it's sort of gotten me through this last part of the lockdown, because it's just it is new music, but I don't have to create a whole song. I just have to create the riff and then the rhythm underneath the solo, and let everyone else do the solos, and I can just sort of sit back and say, yeah, nice, that sounded great. And then I just put it together, and then before I know it, it is a whole song.
Mhm.
So, and then it goes on YouTube, and I just absolutely love being a YouTube artist. I think it's so cool, especially these times, when you can't go out and see a live show. If I was going to play a live show anyways, I'm lucky if I get to play in front of 1,000 people. I'm lucky if I get to play in front of 50 people.
Mhm.
But if I put out a video, I'll get 1,000 people will watch it in the first 8 hours. So I get to reach just as many people, but even more, but all around the world. And I didn't have to, board a plane to Turkey. As much as I love playing in Turkey, it's a long ways away. There's a lot of travel involved, and that sucks. So this is a nice way to sort of get in front of everybody. You're a YouTube artist, and
I love
it's
it. I love it. And I have to
fantastic.
say yours is a great YouTube channel. Everybody should check out because there's music, there's those FAQs, which are hilarious. There's things that you've done with Arlene. There's things that you've done with other musicians. And so there's really a lot of great content. I think you were saying you have over 300 videos on your channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, 360, 70, something like that. Mario, calm down. And my little chihuahua Mario over there.
I think we've met Mario on your channel as well.
Yeah, he's a great guard dog. You know, um, he barks loudly from inside the house, and people don't know how small he really is. So it's good. Another mystery.
Another mystery. Well, my last question for you is, do you have any advice for other musicians that you would like to share? Maybe something you wish you knew or something you think that they should know?
Well, if they want to do it for a living, it's entirely possible. They just need to focus in on what their own specific little niche, however you say it, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can do something better than anyone else can, even if it's just this little thing. Because you gotta really want it bad. I think that's the most important thing. Is is putting in the hours and putting in the focus, but just wanting it so bad that you're just thinking about it all the time. It's what you talk about, it's what you think about, and then you can make it happen. Literally just about anything. I mean, I didn't think that I'd be friends with so many great guitar players. There's some of the world's best guitar players out there in the metal scene and in the flamenco scene, and I know them. But how does that happen? Usually just because I took a chance and I just reached out to them and I said, "Hey, what's up? And this is what I do, and do you want to whatever?" And they get back to me because I'm trying to do something with integrity, because I want it really bad, and I still want it bad to this day. So that's my only advice is to really go for it, and not half-ass it. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here, but I'm just telling you how I'm doing what I'm doing.
I think you're telling us that you have to really want it. You have to give everything you have, and you have to find what's special about you, something that you have to offer that maybe somebody else doesn't have. That was my takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I think maybe Dio has said it before in the years past too. So okay. I always listen to Dio.
Always listen to Dio. Whenever you're at doubt, just listen to
Dio. He's got the answers. We don't know what the hell he's talking about with riding the tiger because his stripes are clean. We don't know what he's talking about. It doesn't matter. He's right.
He's right. Always. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a great pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck with everything, though I don't really think you need it. I think that you've got a lot of amazing things going on, and I can only imagine what you'll be doing next.
Thanks so much, Sarah. It was really a pleasure, and I can't wait to see some of the other episodes of Metal Net TV.
Yay.